And now we have an exclusive interview.
Fiona Frank is an author who has been writing a book called Algal Monster and the River Wye, a book illustrated by Fiona that is bursting with colour and vibrancy. It's a book that brings awareness to children and parents, and it's about the pollution in the River Wye. Fiona spoke with Jules explaining what exactly the book's about and what inspired her to write it. But first she tells us how she got into writing.
Oh, thanks, Jules. It's a real pleasure to be here. I was always into art a lot when I was at school, and music, and I found myself going to art college. It was all like all the arts, really. I'm what you call right-brained, so I'm sort of slightly lopsided in that respect. But anyway, I did my art degree and then moved on to the southwest and continued as an artist. But you know what I found increasingly is that the vocabulary you use to teach music and art, because I've done both, is the same language. It's like a rainbow, and I find that, you know, when I'm describing things to people, it's like it's a very important way of passing on information. And so, you know, as time's gone on, I found myself moving to the Wye Valley with my family. My daughter was at school there, and I was just so moved by the beauty. And in fact, my writing started really when I was involved in a Green Man Festival in 2010, and I was asked to do some designs for this festival. So I drew the Green Man, the Green Lady, because every time I drew a member of the Green family, so basically it started off the Green Man Festival, and then they said, you can't just draw a Green Man, you've got to draw a Green Lady. So I did. And then the Green Child. So, you know, I did the whole family. And then I found that I was so moved by the subject that I wrote poetry for each one of them. So I had a whole set of poems. It just flowed, you know. And then the next thing, I set them to music. So, you know, like, it feels like a kind of, it's almost like synesthetic approach to creativity that really, wherever the sun shines, so you focus on it, you know.
So that was the first time you'd ever written anything?
I think so. In terms of something that I would publish and put out there, I put them out for people in the festival, and people picked all these poems up and gave a donation, you know, to the festival, and people were quite moved by the words, as I was when I was writing them, you know.
So you just have a natural flair for it then, really?
I didn't even know that, you know, it just came. And I think it's just nature-inspired, really and truly. And I just found myself, every time I was tuned into it, it was the peace, the tranquility, and the sounds, you know, and the beauty. Wherever I look, it's just so beautiful, isn't it? I mean, you know, because you're not far away.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a lovely part of the Wye Valley, you know.
I think that's it, and I think we don't appreciate it until we're older as well, do we? That's the thing about it.
Yeah.
When we're younger, we're like, oh, it's just another river, isn't it? It's just another piece of grass. But as you go through it. But I think now it's more about educating our youngsters anyway. And that brings us nicely onto your new book as well. So tell us a little bit about your new book.
It's all inspired by our beautiful, iconic river, the River Wye, and I'm very fortunate to live nearby and see it through the seasons. And when we see how the river contains so many life forms, you know, we realise we need to look after our river, because like us, unless we can be sustained by the environment around us, we'll suffer terribly. So we need to be respectful of our environment. Having been interested in wild swimming, I decided about, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago that I wasn't going to swim in the river again, because I was really not keen on it anymore. It just seemed like, you know, slimy, horrible. I don't know, I just didn't think it was clean anymore. The clarity had gone, and with that, you know, life was suffering. So a few years ago, I saw, you know, that cygnets were dying, and, you know, the fish population were really, really suffering. And so all sorts of people came together, whether it be citizen scientists or artists, poets, all sorts of people have been motivated to come together to help the river. I felt really inspired to write a book, or to write a story, actually. And I hadn't planned to get it published.
Okay.
What happened was we had the very first WYE July in Monmouth, and it was the first event of its kind. And so all people connected with the river, naturalists, campaigners, people who care, people who are joined together in this love of the river, came together and celebrated in different ways, their concern and their passion. And, I said, I'll do a story for children because I love children, And I wrote this quite long story, actually. When I was a child, if a book didn't have good illustrations, I'd really feel ripped off, I really need nice pictures. So I thought, well, I'll do the pictures as well, and I'd get a volunteer to hold them up while I was telling the story, and we did a few sort of like interactive things. Anyway, Angela Jones, who is the most extraordinary woman, she lives in the river, basically. It's an extension of her. I mean, she doesn't have gills or web feet,
right, okay.
But she pretty well does in my story. So she's on the front cover of the book, beautifully illustrated, soothing the fishes, and I'll tell you a little about the story. Do we like monsters? Not really.
That's right, we're scared of them, aren't we?
I think so.
Yeah.
I hope my monster isn't that scary. Yeah. I think he's very approachable, but he's there and he shouldn't actually be there. Mm-hmm. This is the point. The word incongruous, which means, out of place, comes to mind. And basically, the Algal Monster has got bigger and bigger and fatter, and it's having an effect on the river. Now, the algal part, have you heard of algal blooms on the rivers?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Yeah, well, they get bigger and bigger and they spread. And so that's why it was quite convenient to make him that into a kind of character. And it sort of conveys like our feeling about it, which is not comfortable. So in other words, we don't really want monsters hanging around, do we? So
True.
Two children are on a mission to understand what's going on with their river because they've seen the monster and they think, oh my goodness, why is there a monster in our river? It shouldn't be there, Mm-hmm. And so this is what the adventure's like. It's sort of written in rhyming couplets. To keep it light, it's entertaining. I don't mean in a kind of fickle way. It's kind of light with humour, the odd bit of like toilet humour, things mm-hmm. like that. But it points out the key points that we need to be aware of, which is, why is there an algal monster in the river in the first place? And that, my first book, which I haven't published, was more specific and described the elements that have created this problem. But in this fresh new book, it's much more buoyant, like the river, Well, hopefully, get rid of the algal monster, who's a bit fat and heavy, I have to be honest. He really is. He's taking it over. He's dominating the river far too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they go on this adventure, and they meet the wild woman of the WYE, Angela Jones, actually, in reality.
Okay.
And she's more of a sort of imaginative character. But she doesn't actually mind that. So I think she was quite pleased to be in the story. And she had written me a beautiful little acknowledgement thing on the back.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
What do you mean?
Yeah, I know what you're on about, yeah. So on the very back page, that's Wild Woman of the WYE?
That's her.
Right.
That's her. She's written a nice little appraisal of the book, or about it anyway, which was very touching.
Yeah.
She was there when I did my first story, and it was her that said to me, you must get it published, and other people, you must get this published, because they love the pictures and the story. I have thinned the story out radically. I just rewrote it, actually, completely from my original one, which I did really like, actually. But, I couldn't really say multinational corporations too many times.
I know, that's a bit much, isn't it? But it is, I mean, it's really good, because you're lucky I've got a copy here, and looking through it now, as the kids are going along, they're obviously coming across the different nature, aren't they? Like the different animals along the river. Like you've got the otter.
Yes,
the otter pops up, and then the cygnets and the baby swans and Free and Dom.
I know.
That's very good.
Frida and Dominic, meaning
freedom.
Freedom.
Yeah, it's very good.
In actual fact, it's a bit of a pantomime thing, but there's a sort of little bit at the beginning of the book that says, whenever you see the words free and dom, shout freedom.
That's good because you get the kids interacting then as well. I like that as well. And then obviously we've got the Wild Woman of the Wye. She sang soothing songs to the flies and the fishes.
I know.
See, and then we got the Wild Woman of the Wye. Join the beautiful river goddess.
I know. Varga, she's the goddess of the river. I mean, there are goddesses of all the rivers. I think that's also another interesting thing. It's like the goddess rising, I mean, it's like time for women, time for the feminine energies to be more balanced on this, planet, because we give life. We give life. The river gives life. If we didn't have water, if it's all just contaminated, we'll be sick. It's so very simple, very, very simple, as we're mostly made up of water ourselves,
So the book really then is about the children's adventures along the river, but also to show the good and the bad of it then? Would that be correct?
I suppose so, because, the monster is actually, he's kind of innocent. He's innocent. He is there because he's displaced. He has a place, but not there. And in that power, with that sort of powerful presence, because he can't help it if there's so much nutrition in the river, which comes from all the intensive farming, which is actually the big problem.
But if people want to get hold of this book now, Fiona, how can they do that?
Have you come across the Forest Bookshop? It's like Forest Bookshop in Colford.
Absolutely, yes. I've spoken to the lady there, yes.
Oh, she's wonderful.
Yes, she is.
It's a great shop.
It is indeed.
It's a really good shop. There are some copies in there. There's the Welsh Book Council, which might take more effort.
What's that? Online, that is it?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And then you could get it through my website as well. It's Fiona-Frank.com.
Thank you very much, Fiona. I appreciate you coming in anyway, and good luck with it all.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Lovely. Thank you so much.